nice. You guys are here. You know, all you can tell me yet how all you feel about that theme music that tech guys sorted out for me, right? I ain't hear nobody say nothing about the theme music yet. So tech guy has done a lot of upgrades, like little upgrades, logos and names and all kinds of little things. So Jared, it's your birthday. Happy birthday to you, Jared. Let me check out some of the other persons who jumped on. Hi, Barbara. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Alicia. Hi, Jamila, Gemma, Stacy, Patrice. How you doing, my dear? Maria, Trisha, Edith, Zoe, Mervyn, Diane, Lawrence, Alicia, Maureen, Junior. Is it Tisa Besson? Do I have it correct? Leslie Lee, Daniel Frederick. Oh my word, Daniel, that photograph, it is gorgeous. Arthur James, Stacy Lamb, Swavik Steele, do I have it correct? Lincoln, John, Sharon, Allison, Yvonne, Paula, all of you that are here right now, thank you so much for joining me this evening. So it had two things, well, two updates I want to give all you. Hi Francilla, you remember last week I had Vonette and Ingrid Jara here, both of them to talk about the reopening of the entertainment sector, and the two of them were actually concerned about how things would be when they reopened and whether they would have a lot of I guess a lot of patronage for the events that they want to hold. Vonette put up the advertisement for she show, and in less than half a day all the tickets sell out. I cannot attend Vonette show. All the tickets sell out. By the time I check with Vonette, tickets gone. So unless the Prime Minister comes next week and says, as of midnight tonight, we can go from 50% capacity to 75 or 100% capacity at concert halls, I can't see Vonette perform. That is to tell you how well it went. And Ingrid Jara, the owner of Digicel IMAX, I tried booking a ticket to see one of the movies at IMAX this weekend. I can't go and see a film this weekend. So if I did chain up myself and call a little boyfriend and say, hey, let me go and take in a movie now, I'll go book the tickets. Salt for me. Because all of her shows, all of the bookings for her shows are sold out as well. So it means that persons are back out. That's the point I'm really trying to make. It seems as if the safe zones are up and running and people seem to be happy to be back out in the public domain doing things. So let's hope it continues to work and people continue to be able to do things and enjoy things and interact and socialize safely, right? Because the economy need it, right? We need it bad. Now, you all know that it is part of my habit to start with, normally in the past now, before Tech Guys sort me out with a theme song, I would start with a little calypso, a little soca and thing. So I there saying to myself, I can't possibly have a parang tune called Lie, Lie, Lie. Because of course the theme of today's live is Lie, Lie, Lie. You know, it have a soca tune for everything, you know. Listen to this. I don't lie. So I went looking. I find this thing. Meanline to tell all you. I real laugh, you know. I real laugh. I did not appreciate Rome though, but how them Douglas does lie? No. North Gill does lie? No. East Gill does lie? No. So I have to go further down in the song afterwards to ensure that Destra put Rome in his place and let him know how man does lie, right? But I thought y'all should know it. There's a really nice song. That's a really nice parang tune. So who is this troll on the thread, boy? So this fella on the thread, who clearly needs some Robitussin in his life, or some Vicks, or what would is use when you have things stuck in your throat? Maybe he need a Strepsil. The thing that I just never understand is how these trolls just decide to take their goodly self, give up their goodly time, and reach over on my live. Why are you here? Unless it's a situation where you just want to boost my numbers and make my algorithm off the chain. In any case, Olia, let us jump into the thing. Let me jump into the thing, because I know this is what we're here for. So, tech guy sought me out with this. We had a little wrangle because I said to him I wanted Pinocchio. I wanted Kamla with a long nose so everybody would know and get the gist. But tech guy is like, no. Your audience smarter than that. Your audience will understand that this is Kamla behaving desperately, right? So I said, okay, good. So that's the image there from tech guy. So today this evening we're going to look at all of the compound lies that would have come out of one press conference. And that's the press conference on Friday evening. Now, Friday when I was here, just now, let me small this little bit because it blocking me, it in my way. Friday when I was here, I was really and truly responding to Justice Kangaloo's ruling, right? The ruling and the judgment on the matter. The whole whether or not Toppy was legally appointed. That's what I came here to discuss with you all. And I ain't gonna lie, Friday evening, by the time I come here to discuss that with all you, I was good tired. And it was a long day. There was a lot of things that I was doing. And then having to sit down and read through them 60 pages, pull things out, figure out how to make sense of it. It took a lot of energy out of me. And close to when the live had to happen, somebody said to me, they messaged me and they said, Kamla just had a press conference. And I was like, well, the press conference not going to make sense. I ain't bothering to waste time on that. I could always check that out on the weekend and see if there's anything sensible that comes of it. And then later on in the evening, by about 5 o'clock thereabouts, there were a bunch of persons messaging me and asking me, can Kamla impeach the president? And I was like, huh? Impeach the president? And I said, we don't have impeachment here. Impeachment isn't something that happens here. But I would imagine that Kamla went and used the word impeach because she knows her membership. Her membership likes to follow fashion to anything that happening in the United States. In the United States, they talk about impeaching a president, but that's because they have an executive president. We don't have an executive president. And so she would use the word impeach so that she could add a certain amount of, I guess, maybe strength to what she's attempting to do in the parliament. So when they asked me the question, I said, impeach? No. What she can attempt to do is remove the president from the position of the presidency. I said, but that's a long and convoluted process. And it's a process that is so long and so convoluted and requires so much support within the parliament. I don't know how she's going to manage to do it. As a matter of fact, I don't think that it is possible at all. But then I said to myself, you know what? Let me go and listen to the press conference. So I take my good self and I went to the UNC page and I find the press conference and I put on the press conference yesterday afternoon. Who sent me? Who sent me, Lord? Who sent me? My good Saturday afternoon, I could have been hugging up somebody. I could have been cocking up, drinking a good rum, something. But no, because I just want to make sure I have all sides and both sides. I went and I listened. And the first thing that occurred to me in all of it is this. Kamla do have friends. Because if Kamla had friends, half the foolishness that Kamla said in that press conference, somebody would have pulled she square and say, hey, I didn't think what you're saying there going to make sense, you know. Because there are a number of things from that press conference on Friday afternoon that led to not one, not two, not even three, but 4 office holders to respond to Kamla. So Kamla say what she say Friday evening, and by Saturday afternoon, the Prime Minister take off his belt for she. Then when the Prime Minister press conference done, the Minister of Finance take off his belt for Kamla. I was like, but how Imbert even reaching this? But he had a valid point to make, and we will look at that shortly. Then the judiciary take its belt off for Kamla. And you know, when Chief Justice Ivor Archie pulls off his belt, it is an elegant verbal cuttass you just get. So we will be able to look at that. And then today, the president also responded to Kamla Persad-Bissessar. And there are ways in which the president responded that will give you a sense of where this, in quotation marks, impeachment motion that the opposition is going with and pushing for, where it's going to end up. As a matter of fact, I tell you earlier, today is the what? The 17th of October. It is 13 minutes past 6, and I calling it from now. I could tell all you exactly the nature of the discussion and argument that's going to take place in the parliament. But you know what? Enough of me talking. Let me play some video. Where am I? Where? Right, there we go.
Hey.
Let's go.
Yvonne, is everyone ready? Thank you all very much. Good day. Thank you for coming again. Yesterday, I told you I would do another press briefing today on matters with respect to the turbulence in the public domain. I have several items I want to address, but they all flow from what has been a major catastrophe. I termed it yesterday an atomic bomb with a nuclear meltdown. Everything comes from that. With respect to the actions of highest officers of our state, the President, the Prime Minister, the Attorney General, and those persons at the Police Service Commission and elsewhere. So I want to speak to you today about 5 issues, all of which flow from the entanglement of these various offices. The first item has to do with a motion that we have filed in the Parliament. Before I share that motion with you, I want to say thank you for joining us. We are in unprecedented times. For the first time in our nation's history, we have no substantive commission of police. We have no...
Listen. This press conference went downhill from the jump, right? Because Saturday afternoon, when I take my goodly self, go on the UNC page, pull up this press conference and start to play it, the first problem was the press conference start 45 minutes late. So I sit down and I listening, and it's a sort of music playing, all right? A sort of, elevator music playing. And I say to myself, So, where this woman? I had to scroll forward for 45 minutes. So imagine if I did take myself and was listening to this press conference live on Friday evening. Is a whole 45 minutes I would have to wait for Kamla to come and tell she first lie. So when it starts, so I stop. I close down my laptop because I was listening to it on my laptop. And I pull back and I say to myself, Rhoda, you're really going and put yourself through this, girl? And I message the partner who tell me, go and listen to the press conference. And I asked him, must I put myself through this torture? Because I find if I go in and get licks, it had to have a happy ending at the end of the licks. I can't be taking all these licks just so, and it had no enjoyment for me in it. So, first lie, we do not have a fully constituted DCP. That is lie number one, right? Lie number one, we do not have, or rather, that McDonald Jacob is not a fully constituted DCP. Folks, may it please the court of News Source page, right? Because I know all you hear fact-based when we're having conversation. So may it please the court, let me step forward and proffer some information. On or about the 9th of April, 2021, that is this year that we in here right now, on or about the 9th of April, 2021, in the lower house of the parliament, the House of Representatives in the parliament, we had a whole debate. A whole debate. There were 3 names on the order paper wanting to be DCPs. Name number 1, McDonald Jacob. Name number 2, Andre Norton. Name number 3, Mark Hernandez. All you remember that? All you remember I sit down right here and talk about how Mark Hernandez put himself forward to be a DCP? And Toppy as commissioner would have put his name forward? Well, in that debate, only one name was debated on, and that is McDonald Jacob. So the whole House of Representatives, but maybe it was the whole House of Representatives minus Kamla, because it have to be Kamla Prasad Bissessa was not inside the People Hoth Parliament on the evening on or about the 9th of April. That is the only thing that making sense. That Kamla missed the whole debate, sleep through the whole debate, was unaware that there was a debate. Because it's the whole lower house that would have had to vote on McDonald Jacobs becoming a fully constituted DCP. So in April of 2021, that happened because by about the 13th or 14th of April, all of the newspaper stories from that day were indicating that Jacob, who had been an acting DCP before, was now a fully constituted DCP, fully appointed, having gone through the parliamentary process. So he would have applied, he would have been evaluated, his name made a shortlist, it went forward on the shortlist. He was the first name on the order, on the shortlist. They would have voted in the parliament, and after that, the other 2 names on the shortlist would not have been voted on yet. They've not voted on the other 2 names. So Andre Norton and Mark Hernandez, their names have not come before the parliament as part of this whole DCP promotion to DCP, right? So imagine a debate that you and your opposition would have had to be a part of, you don't remember that debate. It wiped clean out your mind. And worse than that, you have staff at the office of the opposition leader. You have staff. I sit down here already and talk through your staff list. I ask questions. Who is this person? What are person doing? What are they getting paid for? You sure all of these people actually working? Right? Last year, I sit down right here and point out to all you, Darren Boudan and whoever else, working for the opposition leader. You're coming to tell me all of these persons on your staff, you getting ready to hold a press conference as the opposition leader, and nobody in double check the information that you're running with? Nobody in say, let me check to see who listening. No, sorry, not who listen. Nobody in say, let me check to see what correct and what incorrect here, because we want whoever it is listening to have wrong information. Or is it a situation where once again the opposition leader set out to mislead the population? But there are a couple more, there's 46 more seconds to go in this particular clip, so let me let you listen.
Acted Commissioner of Police. But the meltdown goes even further. Based on the rulings yesterday, we have no substantive Deputy Commissioner of Police.
She said twice, not once, twice. We have no substantive Deputy Commissioner of Police. You know what's even worse? Kamla Persad-Bissessar then proceeded to list in her speech 3 female ACPs who would have been acting DCPs in late August into early September. Because this year we celebrated 60 years of female police officers, right? Or 60 years of women in the police service. And 3 women, the 3 most senior women in the police service, were all acting DCPs for I think a 2-week period. So it was acting DCP Erla Christopher, acting DCP Joanne Archie, and I believe acting DCP Hines. And there was a lovely picture of all 3 of them around the time of the 60th anniversary, looking very smart, very sharp, and the caption indicated that all 3 women were acting DCPs. Now there's a difference between an acting DCP and a fully appointed DCP, right? And if you were present in that debate around the 9th of April, you ought to have remembered that you were part of the voting process for a fully appointed DCP. Yet you come, the 14th or 15th of October? Is not even a full year past yet. I can't even say it's so much time past that you would forget the debate. You come on the, it would have been 16th, so Friday. So you come on the 15th of October to turn around and say that McDonald Jacob is not a fully constituted DCP, that he's not a substantive DCP. And do you know why she felt the need to say that? Because the rumor, the fear that is being spread right now amongst the opposition and opposition supporters is that the police service collapsing. Because with this opposition, everything is about, oh God, the sky falling, the sky falling. So Chicken Licking Kamla decide that she going and hold a whole press conference on Friday to basically say the TTPS collapse, the judiciary collapse, the president collapse, and all of this is the fault of the PNM. Because inside there she had a call Balize name, right? Good. So you come and your first point is a lie. How I could believe anything else again after that? As much as I am upset about the whole police service commission issue, and trust me, I am upset, how I could take Kamla seriously after Chicken Licking come and telling everybody it have no substantive DCP. It know that Jacob is not a DCP, right? When I know since April of this year, he is a substantive promoted to DCP, right? So from the time you start like that, I had a pelt run go in my kitchen, pick up a pot spoon, dip it down in the salt container and swallow that, right? Because nothing else you saying I could take just so.
And we have no acting commissioners of police. Can I please? So we have nobody in the top ranks of the police service. Based on the rulings yesterday, we have no substantive deputy commissioner of police, and we have no acting commissioners of police. Can I please?
We know that we don't have an acting commissioner of police right now. But to turn around and say that we don't have a substantive DCP and that we have no senior police officers in the ranks to be able to run the police service gives the impression that the police service just running haywire. And of course, when you go into any of these chats and conversations, what do you see? Because they have a whole set of chats, a whole set of WhatsApp chat groups that are just dedicated to spreading lies, right? And a whole set of WhatsApp chat groups that dedicated to saying, oh God, the country going down the drain, crime increasing. There are no statistics to support what they're saying. Weirdly enough, everybody seems to forget that the highest murder toll that this country has ever seen in its 62 years of independence happened in 2019 under Gary Griffith. Plenty people just forget that. Me don't forget them thing. My memory long. And I just remember that the reason crime went down in 2020 had nothing or very little to do with new policing strategies and everything to do with a series of lockdowns because of a pandemic. Those things I just remember. So when people throw in all kind of fake figures left, right, and center, and conveniently forgetting that historically the highest murder rate happened under Griffith, me don't forget them thing. And me don't forget them thing because my skin is the color of pests and cockroaches, right? I don't forget that I had a whole commissioner of police sit down and repeatedly call people who resemble me pests and cockroaches. My memory long, right? So, chicken licking come and chicken licking hit with the it ain't have no substantive DCP. DCP McDonald does not exist, right? And I sure poor McDonald must sit down and thinking to himself, EI, oh, like how am I not a substantive DCP? But in Kamla's rush to say that the police service has fallen, one of the things that she says repeatedly throughout the press conference is the TTPS no longer has anybody who could sign off on salaries, who could sign off on orders, payments, procurement. And of course, Kamla is saying all of those things because she also wants police officers to be worried. Because if you come as an opposition leader and you say it have no senior officers and it have no acting commissioner and it have nobody to do this, that and the other, and people mightn't be able to get a salary, they wouldn't be able to place orders, they wouldn't be able to procure items for the TTPS, they wouldn't be able to buy bullets, vests, whatever it is they need to get. You put that kind of information out there. And it's not just the public that going to be worried. It is also the members of the TTPS who may not necessarily know better, right? So, of course, what has to happen? This one, I tell you, I was so surprised to see a press release from the Ministry of Finance on the weekend. So he had to come, put out a press release to remind people that this gentleman has a substantive position. He was promoted, and that gentleman, where is it, boy, can be the accounting officer for the TTPS. So boom, here we go. And it right there in your face. The Minister of Finance wishes to advise that in accordance with Section 2 of the Exchequer and Audit Act and Regulation 3 of the Financial Regulations, he has appointed Deputy Commissioner of Police MacDonald Jacob as the accounting officer for the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. It is to be noted that Deputy Commissioner of Police Jacob was confirmed by the Parliament in his substantive position of Deputy Commissioner of Police in April 2021. Olia, tell me why this man had to come and tell this woman she walk. Why Imbert had to be the one to come and tell Kamla that Jacob is a fully constituted DCP? What Kamla's staff doing so? Like, how busy Ole could possibly be that Ole can't Google nothing? Nobody on the whole opposition bench have Google on their phone? Imbert alone have Google on his phone? Seriously? Lord have mercy. Kamla is an embarrassment, you know. An embarrassment. You see, when in a situation where you have somebody who rush for a particular work, rush for a particular position, and they can't do the work properly, Kamla drags the flag for all women. I swear to God. I mean, there are days I just be rooting, you know, and thinking, she going and get it right now. She going and get it right this time. She going and get it right this time. Nope, she does not. Drops the ball every single time. Kamla has been on the most amazing losing streak. Since 2010 to now, losing everything down to her marbles. So that is the first clip. That's the first clip. I have plenty clip for you this evening. Plenty clip. So that is clip number 1. Let's go to clip number 2. Where she decides that this lady, Nadia Kangaloo, Justice Nadia Kangaloo, equals this flower. And that is Kamla Matic's for you. She automatically assumes that a ruling is given and then the ruling is amended, and so Nadia Kangaloo, Justice Nadia Kangaloo, must equal Balize flower. Once it ain't working in Kamla's favor, she just automatically paints everything Balize. So every damn thing for Kamla Passad Bisessa is a PNM once it not supporting her. And you know what's the hard part about it? Maybe even Kamla's lies is a PNM, because your lies ain't helping you out either. So stop lie. Stop it. Right? Turn around and tell them lies, it is be lying. Use a PNM. Don't come in my mouth. And maybe you'll start telling the truth. So let's listen to this clip. Let's take a listen here. It have more trolls on the thread, but we don't have enough trolls on the thread. We need some more trolls on the thread. I only have 1,419 people watching this live. We need about 80 more trolls. So 80 more trolls come in. Let me hit a little 1,500, a little 1,600 tonight, right? Go and tell your friend and them in Kick Out the PNM to come over. I want to boost my numbers. Build the live trolls. Right. So now we're going to listen to Kamla talk about Justice Kangaloo and, you know, make a determination about Justice Kangaloo.
Under sections 35 and 36, this is a process I have employed to make the office of the president accountable to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The motion...
Oh, wait, no. You know what? Wrong clip. I don't want to play this clip for you just yet. It's a clip further down. I think
will
this
die
is-
and cannot rise up like Lazarus. But that
this is it. Right. Good. I see somebody there talking about what? How rowdy is my mister? No, you have it wrong. So yes, he is tall, and yes, he is dark skinned, and yes, he is handsome, but no, he's not the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Stop trying to get in my bedroom business. My bedroom business is not your business. Go and study Kamla bedroom business. Study who Kamla have in she bedroom, not who I have in my bedroom. There we go.
was before the judge changed her order. In the night, again, I'll tell you more, will die. and
Just now, I need to start it properly, and I need to give all your proper context. So, Homegirl next lie is to tell people that the judge, what is going on with me? I sounding like Kamla. I biting up my words, biting my tongue, I slurring. Right. So Kamla decides that Justice Kangaloo changed her order in the dead of night. So after she deal up with this particular lie on Justice Kangaloo, we will be looking at the response from the judiciary. And you know, the Chief Justice don't ever let we down.
cannot rise up like Lazarus. But that was before the judge changed her order. In the night, again, I'll tell you more of what went on in that court yesterday.
Yeah, the judge changed her order in the night. I'm going to tell you more about what happened with that order yesterday. Now, the way she talked about it, you swear she's going to talk about it a little further down, right? But so she could rush the brush. Can't help herself, you know. Jumped straight into the topic and did not even do it right.
And last night, first the judge had ruled that the entire 2021 order was unconstitutional, null and void. That was said in the open court. We have to await a transcript because you're not allowed to record like you can here now. You can't
You see that? That was said in the open court. We need to get a transcript. Lie. That's the first lie. But we will get into it. So remember that lie that Kamla says that the judge said in open court that they struck out the entire order. She said that, right? Remember that she says the judge said that.
record inside here in the courthouse. We have to await the transcript, but I am reliably informed by attorneys who were present and by those who viewed the proceedings. You could zoom in, you could go on the link.
So here's the funny thing. Kamla starts by saying you cannot record these proceedings, right? That's the first thing she says. You cannot record these proceedings. All court now is virtual, and they use Microsoft Teams, and it's live, and members of the media can be present. Members of the media were present. Further to that, you can actually record the court proceedings now. And you have, of course, the court stenographers. So you have people who doing the court stenography. You can record the virtual proceedings. The court itself can do the recording of the virtual proceedings. And you had the media present at the ruling. And yet, Kamla Prasad Bisesa comes and says that lawyers who were present at the ruling told her that that's what the judge say. Here's the interesting thing. Anand Ram Logan was the person representing Ravi Balgobin Maraj. All you remember that, right? Because we talked about that here on Friday. Anand was the senior counsel who was representing Ravi Balgobin Maraj. In all of this bacchanal, Anand Ram Logan is yet to come out and lodge any sort of complaint about the correction in the ruling. He has not a word to say. So I want all you to understand this. Anand inside the court, to the best of our knowledge, that is Kamla's friend. Not so? Because that was she Attorney General. Both of them give one another silk the same time. Right? Then Larry Lala would have been representing Gary Griffith. He would have been inside the court too. Larry Lala is a member of the UNC. Obviously, he should be a friend of Kamla. You're coming to tell me that Kamla have all of these friends, all Ole's lawyer together, all Ole's friend together, and none of them may come to you and tell you the truth about what is happening in the court? So you go come and stand up in a press conference and lie to the public and lie on your own self, and then 24 hours later, Chief Justice Ivor Archie had to take off his belt for you. Kamla is licks you like so. It's licks you like. Yeah, that your thing. That. Let me finish listening to the lady here.
That the judge ruled the 2021 order unconstitutional. The whole thing. So when you asked me, I said, well, okay, anything done pursuant to that order would be dead. Can't erase up again. But in the night last night, I don't know if it was in the middle of the night, but sometime last night, it changed.
And it's how she does use language, right? And sometime last night, in the middle of the night last night, I ain't sure what time, the thing changed. Now let me ask all you, in all your mind, what time of the day, night they start? Give me a time. I'm reading the thread here. If all you had to talk about night, from what hour would you say is night time? I want all you to tell me, because we're going and look at the judiciary response just now. So in the comment thread, put it up in the comment thread. If you're going and say night time, I see Kathy Gale say 9 p.m. I see Alana Connell say 7 p.m. I see Marlene Payne say 9 p.m. Okay, right. So all you're giving me an idea what is all you think is night time, right? So let me pause for 2 seconds and look at what actually went on. So according to Kamla, the judge read out her ruling in the open court. And the judge in the open court say all of the order struck off. That is what Kamla is saying. And Kamla says she friend who is inside the court tell she. And at this point I will say, Kamla, get new friends. Get new friends or get a friend. Because maybe you don't have friends and you need friends. You know why? Because my friends in the court was able to show me precisely where it is take place. But I couldn't come out and say just so. So I was very glad to see that the judiciary responded to the erroneous story that Gail Alexander put in The Guardian. So all is saying 7, all is saying 9-ish. Let me show all you what is late in the night for Kamla Prasad Bisesa. And I was so stunned that this is how Kamla does decide is late in the night. So the first thing I want all you to understand, we're going to look at what the judiciary say, right? I see somebody say definitely not Bullock clock hour, and I will agree with you. Yes, it was not Bullock clock hours that this thing was changed. It was not 10:44 p.m. Right. So, the media release. So the judiciary sees as most unfortunate and hopefully not born of malicious or Machiavellian intent, but merely a lack of understanding of the process, the suggestion in the Trinidad Guardian that the Honorable Madam Justice Kangaloo amended her order in some way after she had given her ruling in the matter of Ravi Balgobin Maharaj versus the Attorney General. So let me go down. Second paragraph. As soon as the error was detected, actually no, a little further up. At the conclusion of the hearing in which the judge delivered her ruling, the order was quickly drafted and sent out to the parties by court mail at approximately 4:30 p.m. 4:30 was when they sent out the draft for the first ruling, right? So the judge delivered the ruling and the order was drafted very quickly. That is the 3-page document, because the ruling was 60 pages. The order would have been the last 3 pages of the document. So 4:30 in the evening, the order itself was sent out. Unfortunately, it contained a clerical error of the type normally corrected by use of something called the slip rule. Kamla, as a person with silk, because she has bedecked herself with silk, must know what the slip rule is. So as soon as the error was corrected, the corrected order was brought in line with what the judge herself had earlier clarified in response to a question by Douglas Menz SC. So this is where, let me embiggen myself. Let me make myself big and center myself and explain something to all you. According to my sources in the court, and my sources in the court were persons who were there next to the media, because it had members of the media watching the ruling. Because you could go onto the judiciary website, click on the Microsoft Teams link and enter into the courtroom and pay attention to the ruling, right? There are a lot of court matters that you can pay attention to like that. My friends who were there said to me that when the judge gave her ruling, Douglas Menz actually asked for clarification. All of the other lawyers were there. That means Kamla's good friend Anand Ram Logan was there, and Daryl and Larry Lala was there. So you had two persons that Kamla have a relationship with. She could talk to, she could reach out to. They were there when Douglas Menz posed a question to the judge and asked the judge to clarify whether she was striking out the entire legal notice or just paragraph 4. And when that question was asked, the judge clarified by saying she was striking out paragraph 4. But the court clerk would have drafted up the order and typed incorrectly, put in the error, right? So they make the error. All you see in the times, right? Because I'm going and smalling up myself, and we are going back to look at where it is take place. So 4:30, they sent out the draft. At 5:39 p.m., so an hour and 9 minutes later, the error was pointed out to the judiciary, right? And it was pointed out by email, and everybody who was part of the trial, in terms of the legal team, the legal representatives, would have been copied on the email. I want all you to see. 4:30, the draft gets sent out. 5:39 p.m., the error was pointed out via email and everybody else on the email thread. I am telling you all of this because if everybody else on the email thread, it means that Kamla friends, who is part of the legal team that would have been part of this entire matter, would have been aware that 4:30 they sent out the draft, and by 5:39 p.m. the error was pointed out. Not just discovered, it was pointed out. So somebody figured, hey, there's an error in this ruling, and they send back an email to say, hey, you have an error here, right? So that is, so let me go to the next. All you tell me that for all you 9 o'clock in the night, 7 o'clock in the night, right? All you're telling me about what for all is nighttime. So let us now look at when exactly in the evening, when exactly in the night, this thing was clarified. At 5:39 p.m., the error was pointed out. The corrected document was issued at 7:39 p.m., get right here, and dispatched by court mail to all parties at 8:05 p.m. All you're seeing that with all your own two eyes, right? Kamla Prasad Bisesa thinks that 8:05 p.m. is late in the night, at some ungodly hour in the night. So in Kamla mind, This happened in the dead of night when nobody know nothing. Kamla feel everybody does sign Section 34 clause the way she sign a Section 34 clause. That is what she thinks. She thinks that everybody does deal up with legal matters, legal issues, and constitutional matters in the way in which she does deal with constitutional matters and legal matters. So 4:30 the draft was done. 5:39 p.m. the error was pointed out. The corrected document was issued at 7:39 p.m. So that is 2 hours later the corrected document was issued, and about half an hour later court mail dispatched the corrected document, right? And so the corrected document that came out about around 8 o'clock the Thursday night would have had the corrected statement that would have been actually pronounced by the judge in the court that day. So the inaccurate ruling was the one that came out early, the one that was sent out at 4:30. The correct ruling, the one that reflects precisely what the judge said, that came out at 8:05 p.m. That's Kamla's second lie in the same press conference, right? So we don't have 2 lies already in that press conference. When you're batting so many lies one after the other, right? Consecutive lies, where you expect, where you leave. And the thing about it is, in batting all of them lies, what Kamla was trying to do, especially in this instant, she was trying to make as if Justice Kangaloo changed her ruling to suit the government. That is what she was trying to do. And if you are saying that a judge has changed her ruling to suit the government, you are basically saying that the judiciary is compromised. You are trying to say that everything that happening in this country is because this one is a PNM, that one is a PNM, this institution is a PNM, that institution is a PNM. Basically, you're trying to say that the whole reason you failing at life, the whole reason you have not been a success since 2010, the whole reason you've been on a losing streak from 2010 to now is because the whole country is a PNM. 1,611 people on the live. Well, you build the live. Build the live! Where am I going to now? Now, the thing that the judiciary did in their press release that was very important, they pointed out to media the kind of slackness that went on with the reporting here. And I want you to just look at a couple words. We're going to look at a couple words from the rest of the press release here, because I want all you to understand that what Gail Alexander did was extremely dangerous. In fact, let me big up myself and say that again. What Gail Alexander did in that article on Saturday was extremely dangerous. Gail Alexander, I'm trying to find the word to describe what Gail Alexander did. It almost did on the tip of my tongue. Gail Alexander lied. She lied in her whole article about something she didn't need to lie about. Because Gail Alexander could have spoken to anybody from the media who was present at the ruling. Gail Alexander could have reached out to the judiciary and asked questions. Instead, Gail lied. That's what she did. Some people just wake up and choose violence. Gail Alexander does wake up and choose to lie. So the judiciary had to put the Guardian in its place. And it says here, let me smallen up myself. An order of the court or judge and an order of the court are two completely different things. Right? So Let me repeat that. An order of the court, meaning the pronouncement by the judge, and an order of the court, meaning the document issued to capture the ruling of the judge, are two different things. So the pronouncement in court and the written document are two different things, right? And the wording of the article that Gail Alexander would have written juxtaposed the two things and baffled readers. In short, it confused readers and would have let readers go away with an entirely inaccurate assumption of what took place. And the press release, goes on to say, to suggest any nefarious intent or conspiracy is to seek to undermine the independence of the judiciary and the very democracy on which our nation stands. The guardian of democracy for the many decades of his life, they've hailed themselves as a guardian of democracy for many decades of their life. And the judiciary wants to hope that this is merely a misunderstanding of the court's processes. And of course, they go on to insist, or to suggest rather, that good journalistic practice would indicate checking for accuracy before publishing for the benefit of the readers. I fed up sit down here and talk about how poor our reporting and journalism is. When I talk about how poor and shoddy our journalism is here, journalists get vexed. There's taught. There's be up in the fields. They suck the finger in a corner. And then there's go on Twitter and tweet a set of shit. And then there's go in their private WhatsApp groups and post a set of shit about me, instead of trying to improve the game. So when you call them out and point out that the work they're doing is shit, that's not actually getting them to do better work. In fact, all that is do is cause them to toot. Because none of them going to make an effort. I could put my pot on fire that next week Gail Alexander going to write just as erroneous a story as she wrote this weekend. Every weekend there's some foolishness from Gail Alexander in the papers. And the thing about it is nobody going to pull up. Her editor's not going to pull up. The editor-in-chief ain't going to pull up. The CEO ain't going to pull up. The board of directors ain't going to pull up, because they're happy with this kind of foolishness. Why? Because this suits their agenda. Gail Alexander pick up herself and write a whole story in The Guardian, basically implying that the judiciary is a balize. Right? And that is part of the tissue of lies that's being spread from that press conference. Nadia Kangaloo is a balize. Judiciary is a balize. President is a balize. All kind of foolishness from that press conference. What's the next thing I want to touch on? So let's get into the president and the president's response to things. Where did I put those images? Those images gonna... it's 7 o'clock. Time to shut down the live. I can't sit down here whole time so at all, yeah? Where did I put those images? I'm confused. Just now. Well, give me 2 seconds. Bear with me. Bear with me. There. They're right in front of my face. Happiness in my tail, yes? Right. So the president would have put out a statement. Before I go into her statement, I need to go into what Kamla would have said where that is concerned. Right. Good. Good. We ready. All you ready? I ready. Already. Already.
Our constitution.
Right. So this is the part of Kamla's parang session where she coming out with the big chorus. You know when Daisy Voisin come out on the stage with she bouquet and things, she said, oh, this is that part for Kamla. So this is the part where she finished Ramage herself next to she backup singers, and now she is stepping out in front with she bouquet in hand to hit them high notes because she going after the president. So let us get into it.
Under sections 35 and 36, this is a process I have employed to make the office of the president accountable to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The motion is grounded on several facts, and those are set out in the Constitution. The motion has been filed pursuant to section 36 of the Constitution, and
I feeling so good to know that is not me alone. That is the so let me listen to that again.
36 of the Constitution.
Let's try it again.
In file pursuant to section 36 of the Constitution, and the grounds are set out. There are only specific ways that you can seek to have a president removed from office, and those grounds are set.
So I want to remind all you something. It's not my first time I have pointed out that a president acting improperly. It's not my first time. People who have been following me for a while would be aware that I crossed swords with Anthony Carmona and the housing allowance and the fact that he was living in state housing while taking the housing allowance, and he not allowed to be in state housing and hold on to the housing allowance, right? So it's not my first time having to deal up with a president and the office of the president. Not my first rodeo at all. So I'm aware of the steps that you can go through or should go through if you have decided that a president has acted improperly in office. So let's go. Let's continue.
Out. 1, or A, that the president has behaved in such a way as to bring her office into hatred, ridicule, or contempt. That the president has willfully violated the Constitution, and that the president has endangered the safety and security of a nation, of the state. So those are grounds, and there's another one, but I don't think we've reached there yet. Another ground could be by reason of mental capacity and so on.
So she's not wrong. Those are the grounds on which you can decide that you are going to bring a president, where you're going to bring a motion before the parliament about the president. So let's, she said the live blocking my image just now. Let me pull that down. Is that good enough? That working there for you? So I'm going to rewind a little bit because I want all it to be clear on the various grounds, right? And the reason I want all it to be clear on the various grounds is because I want to then look at what the president had to say in her press release today and let us make sense of things.
That the president has behaved in such a way as to bring her office into hatred, ridicule, or contempt.
That's the first thing, that the president has behaved in such a way to bring his or her office into ridicule, hatred, contempt, right?
That the president has willfully violated the Constitution.
That the president has willfully violated the Constitution. Now, of all of the things that Kamla lists, this might be the one leg we have to stand on. That's for me the only point that I could look at. The other thing about bringing the office into hatred, I don't see that she has legs to stand on there. It would only be, if we're going to argue it, and I'm going to get into it in a little bit, it would only be the thing about the Constitution. In fact, let me rewind just a couple seconds so you could hear it again.
President has willfully violated the Constitution.
Right. So if she's willfully
And that
violated
the
the
president
Constitution.
has endangered the safety and security of a nation, of the state.
Right. And then this last thing about she has willfully endangered the state. I can't see how anybody could prove point 1 or point 3. So to me, the only thing that can be argued is point 2. But we're going to get into that in a little bit.
So those are grounds, and there's another one, but I don't think we reached there yet. Another ground could be by reason of mental capacity and so on.
So, folks, let me ask all of this. When I listen to Kamla talk about the grounds on which she want to remove Paula May, all of you think Kamla, as opposition leader, and even when she was prime minister, all of them grounds available for her removal from office? Tell me honestly. All you think that Kamla willfully brought her office into hatred and odium? All you think Kamla undermined the Constitution? All you think Kamla endanger people in this country? So on what grounds? Listen, Kamla special, you know. Kamla really do have friends. If this woman had friends, somebody would have said to her, hey, slow your roll. Slow your roll. This could blow up in your face. Let other people handle this. This could blow up in your face.
At the rate some are going, some of us will reach there sooner than later, but that ground, we have not triggered that ground. We are using the other 3 grounds. So we are saying that Her Excellency, the office of the President, has behaved in such a way to bring the office into hatred, ridicule, or contempt by interfering and or facilitating interference with the Police Service Commission, and by proceeding in the circumstances to appoint new members of that commission, willfully violated the provisions of the Constitution, securing independence of that commission in the performance of its functions, and violated Section 123 of the Constitution, which is a duty that when you get a merit list, you don't hold on to it. There is a constitutional duty to send the merit list to the Parliament. The court ruled very clearly, because that was not done, those appointments were unconstitutional.
So I like to be fair. Again, let me embiggen myself here. I like to be fair. There are some points in there that are valid. The president had a responsibility to pass on the merit list. I said that from the jump. Since Republic Day, I've been asking, what happened to the merit lists? Why was the merit list not sent on to the Parliament? And the judge's ruling on Thursday said that. I am not the sort of person that is going to decide that everything you say ain't have any merit at all. Where there are things that have merit, I will say, yes, this have merit. Where you lie and you're talking shit, I will tell you, you lie, you're talking shit. So now, because I really feel, Kamla beyond shameless at this stage. Now, let's get into what the president said. And we need to get into what the president said. Now, the press release, I felt, I don't know. This is the press release that was put in the papers, right? And I have to say this. Design is important. I have to step aside. I ain't talking about the content right now, right? Design is important. When you see something like this in the papers, they're just dense, text heavy, and a set of different colors, and nobody actually going to take the time to read it. And maybe that was what you were aiming for, that nobody was going to take the time to read it. Unfortunately, I just take the time to read things that are important and interesting to me. So I read it. And I'm going to say this. There are things that the president said in that press release today that answer questions. And there are things that the president said in the press release today that created more questions than it answered for me. So I am going to go through it slowly. And the area that I was more interested in was what she had to say about acting commissioner. But when I read the bit about commissioner of police, I said to myself, it have more in the mortar than the pestle. And I don't know that this press release did precisely what the president wanted it to do. I can't say that it did that. So let's get into it, right? Let me get to the images on them, because I cropped it to be able to look at it properly, to be able to, oh Lord, is this going to be clear enough, boy? I can't guarantee that this is clear enough. This is the best that I could do. But let's get into it. And the thing about it is, I'm not even sure when I get down a bit, then I will answer. Then I will put my face back up on the screen. Actually, no, maybe I could put my face back up on the screen here. That's what I'll do. Just make myself small enough. Right. So she says, I first speak to the issue of the substantive appointment of Commissioner of Police since it was first in time. As much as I respect many of those in the legal, political, and public spheres who demanded it, I will not address the question of who came to the office of the president and met or spoke to whom. That is not the practice of this office. Furthermore, I do not consider it helpful in analyzing the issues set out below. Now, I tell you already, Section 81 covers the Prime Minister showing up at President's house to have a meeting. If he want, he could go to the President's house every day, all day, right? 24/7. And we can't have an issue with that because the Constitution allows for it. Once there's government business that he need to discuss with the president, he could trot over from Whitehall, round the corner to President's house, and they have a conversation. The president is not under any obligation to tell us about meetings that she has with any of her service commissions. She doesn't have to tell us about those meetings. I will say this though, the service commissions need to account to the public. And this service commission did not account to the public. But let me go further. The president continues to say, I confirm that an order of merit list in respect of the Commissioner of Police was delivered on August the 11th to the office of the president and withdrawn almost immediately thereafter that day. You see, that sentence, you know, all over Facebook these days, people putting up posts about red flag and what is red flag. That sentence to me was a red flag. And I will tell you why the sentence was a red flag. Because if you go and you deliver, it doesn't say the person was on their way to deliver. It says that the order of merit list was delivered. Delivered suggests a completed action, that the merit list came, the merit list was handed over. So how do you withdraw a list? It has to be that whoever went to carry this merit list to the president got there and at some point in time decided they were not handing over the list to the president. And if you on your way to somebody and you reach by somebody and your intention is to hand them something, right? So let me say I go in by, who was just on the thread there? Debbie Kamla. I go on by Debbie and I have this envelope to hand to Debbie. And I reach by Debbie and I hand Debbie the letter and I put it in she hand. What would then cause me, if my job is to deliver a merit list to you and I have come and I have submitted the merit list to you, what would make the merit list that was in this hand and transferred over into this hand suddenly end back over in this hand. No, Debbie, it's not enough that it was withdrawn. There has to be a reason that it was withdrawn. Because if I've come to give this to you and you receive it and then it end back up in my hand, it means that a discussion happened between you and I, and something about that discussion had me saying to you, hey, you know what? Maybe we need to redo that list. Or maybe something else needs to happen with the list. Or maybe the list itself was not properly constituted. So my understanding is that questions and queries have been raised or were raised about the evaluation process for persons who were on that order of merit list. Remember, right here, I come and I tell all you that I heard that there were persons who refused to take the psychometric evaluation. I heard that there were persons who were having problems with their background checks and the security checks. I was told these things. So I rather suspect that given all of the discussions that have been raised recently about investigations that were done, files that moved back and forth, that questions may have been raised about evaluations, because it does not make sense that somebody came to drop off a list, they delivered the list, and then the list was withdrawn. Something has to happen between the delivery of the list and the withdrawing of the list, because the person who delivering the list ain't going to just jump just so and decide, hey, that list I come and drop off for you. Nah, I'm carrying it back. There has to be a reason, right? There has to be a reason, right? So the list was delivered, then the list was immediately withdrawn, and to date no other list has since been submitted, right? Good. And so the Office of the President has been advised that the recruitment and selection process has not been completed. Again, that's the next thing that had me wondering. So you reach with a list, you deliver the list, you take back the list, and what was said to the Office of the President is that the recruitment and selection process was not completed. So how do you submit a list if the recruitment and selection process not completed? That whole paragraph from start to finish tells you that there are more questions that need to be answered. Punto final. Me making this up, I going through the same press release, the same ad in the papers that the rest of all you went through. If you come and you deliver a list, my assumption will be that the list is complete, that the process is complete. And you come, you deliver the list, and the same day you deliver the list, you take back the list, and up to now, what you said to the Office of the President is that the recruitment and selection process has not yet been completed. I'm not making this up. This in front of your face, it right there, in black and white. In black and white. I put up the ad on my news source page today and said very little about it, because when I read it, I said to myself, this is not making sense. Somebody come by me to drop off a list for me and take it back one time and then tell me in a letter afterwards that the recruitment and selection process has not yet been completed. I wouldn't pause and think to myself, okay, wait, this went on there. That's interesting. I wonder what went on there. So, do you not, the rest of you, not wondering what went on there? Or rather, you're not seeing that there's a legitimate reason to wonder what went on there? Debbie, I'm not saying that this is at the feet of the president. don't misinterpret. Don't misinterpret me. I'm saying that in going through this press release, there were more questions that were raised for me, right? And in going through the press release, the minute the president said the list reached by her, and then the list was withdrawn immediately, and then she was told that the recruitment and selection process was not yet completed, had me wondering, well, what happened? Like, is it that they had a conversation? Is it that Bliss just remember something while she handing over the list and decide, oh God, no, it's not finished, it's not completed? It raises questions, legitimate questions, right? Legitimate questions. Next point, next paragraph. The bit that the president puts in bold black here is very important because it's her way of explaining to us that while she appoints a service commission, she is not responsible for what the service commissions do, right? And why that is necessary and critical for us to understand, it is because she is letting us know that any decisions that the Police Service Commission took, she not responsible for, right? So while the president might be responsible for appointing the service commission, she is saying that she is not responsible for the decisions that the service commissions make. And so she says here, I take this opportunity to reiterate that while the president appoints and removes members of service commissions in accordance with specific constitutional provisions, the service commissions are independent, even of the president, who does not direct, participate, or interfere in their deliberations and decisions. So basically, whatever it is they do after I constitute them, after I swear them in and give them the instruments of appointment, that is them. I'm not involved in that. Good. So, then she goes on to say, the office of head of state is expected to be one of careful, deliberate, judicious decision making. And I thought this was pretty interesting here. And I felt it was interesting, not for this paragraph, but later on when we talk about the acting commissioner. So the office of the head of state is expected to be one of careful, deliberate, judicious decision making, sometimes in circumstances that are unprecedented and for which no specific guidance is to be found in law. And then she goes on to say that neither the office of the president nor I participated in, allowed, or encouraged any attempted or actual improper interference. So the president makes it clear. She's building her case here, right? And she's building her case in response to what Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar would have said the Friday evening. And of course, things that would have been raised in that judgment on Thursday. So she's saying that she did not participate in, allow, or encourage any attempted or actual improper interference, influence, or breach of the principle of the separation of powers. So this is, y'all remember the point Kamla made a couple minutes ago about the president deliberately endangering the Constitution? The president is saying here, me deliberately do nothing at all. I didn't participate in, I didn't allow, I didn't encourage, right? Good. So, we move on now to the acting commissioner of police. And I want to remind you all that there's two major areas of concern I have had since this entire thing started. One, what did you do with the list? And I'm not referring to the merit list that was withdrawn in one day. That's not the list I kept asking about. I kept asking about the list with two names, where it would have had Griffith's name and a second name. That list, what did the president do with that list? Because there's a letter that shows, and I showed you all that letter already, that Bliss Sipasad would have sent on a merit list of nominees for the role of acting commissioner. And the reason I keep asking about that list is that I still trying to understand why the president didn't pass that list on to the parliament as is her duty. That's my concern. That remains my concern. And she says here, she says, let's go down to the second paragraph. Oh, actually, no. Let's go up to the first paragraph. So, which sentence? I want to go to the sentence that starts with, as was stated. As was stated during the legal proceedings, I harbored from the outset serious concerns about the effect and legality of Legal Notice 183, paragraph 4. So, this for me is what continues to have me concerned. The president is saying that she, from the outset, from the jump, she had concerns about the legal notice. I remind you that the role of the president is to protect and uphold the Constitution. So you have this legal notice and you have concerns about paragraph 4. After the OTP discussed these concerns with the Police Service Commission and the Office of the Chief Parliamentary Counsel, I did not send a notification forward as I did not think the president was given the power to do so. So she never sent the list forward. Even though she read the notice, she read the legal notice, she had concerns about the legal notice, she didn't send the list forward to the parliament. The thing that continues to have me confused in all of this is, on Thursday afternoon, there would have been a ruling from a judge. And in the ruling, the judge arrived at the decision that the president, based on Section 123 of the Constitution, had a right to send the list forward to the parliament. The judge also found that the Police Service Commission acted improperly. So, President Paula May Weeks was supposed to send the list forward to the parliament. The Police Service Commission was not supposed to take on the work of the parliament and send and appoint no acting commissioner. So when the president makes the comment that the office of the head of state is expected to be one of careful, deliberate, judicious decision making, I had to pause and ask myself, if you are careful, deliberate, and judicious in your decision making, how is it that you, of all persons, are the only person that didn't realize that Section 123 had to be applicable here? How is it that so many other lawyers and people who aren't even lawyers could figure out, well, paragraph 4 doesn't make sense, and so you have to go to the parent law, which is Section 123, and that will make sense? The president actually behaves as if that ruling on Thursday absolves her from any responsibility at all. And that, for me, is one of the things that was concerning about the press release she put out today. Because she basically says, and let me read it out here. She says, I take full responsibility for my decision, which was influenced by only my then unresolved concerns. I am satisfied that the court in its decision confronted and settled the matters which had troubled me. So I remain confused. How is it that the legal advice that the president would have received on this legal notice 183 was such bad advice? Who gave the legal advice to the president? The president has a legal officer at the office of the president, and I am told that other persons weighed in with legal advice to the president. So I'm trying to figure out, how is it that those persons who gave the president advice never once said to her, ma'am, this legal notice is housed within parent law, which is section 123 of the Constitution. And so you have to go to section 123 of the Constitution to see what you need to do. So the president, in not doing her duty by sending the list on, helped to create a situation where the Police Service Commission seemed to think that it was empowered to take on the power of the Parliament. And then they went and appointed an acting commissioner illegally. And that is how we end up in this whole madness where Kamla Persad-Bissessar is saying that she is going to impeach the president. I don't think that Mrs. Persad-Bissessar has any real legs to stand on, because the president is going to say that she was advised. Y'all remember when Kamla used to use that? Like every 2 seconds, you point out something to Kamla and she would say, well, I was advised and I was advised. Well, I'm pretty certain that the president of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago is going to say that she did what she did based on advice. That she did not look at section 123 of the Constitution because the advice she was given is that there was no role for her in paragraph 4 of legal notice 123. And so because there was nothing for her in paragraph 4, she did nothing. And so the president, who we often accuse of doing nothing, is now going to say that she was legally advised to do nothing and so did nothing. That's what we're going to hear in a couple of weeks' time. And after the president came this cocktail for Kamla Persad-Bissessar. So let's start.
She and her 19 imps. She and her 19 imps, what is it, imps, pimps and chimps, they put their name on a list and will come to the parliament and debate the conduct of the president. It is for good reason that our constitution says that the action of the president cannot be queried in a court of law, because they want to save us from ourselves. But the opposition leader wants to get around that by bringing the president's name into the parliament in a substantive motion so that she and her imps, chimps and pimps can scandalize the president in the worst way. Well, the UNC is a part of the politics of this country. We are not.
So I want to say this. Imps, pimps and chimps is not something that the prime minister came up with, right? That's not his phrase. It's actually a phrase that Raymond Ramcharita used. Let me see if I could find that back for all you, boy. Because let me see where I would have that. Because I talked all about, you remember the week we talked about the collapse of the UNC? That would have been sometime last week when we talked about the collapse of the United National Congress. Right. When we talked about the collapse of the United National Congress, I showed you all this. Right? Raymond Ramcharita, who is a big fan of the United National Congress. He says, listening to Kamla, all I'm hearing are the pronunciation and syntax flubs, skipping syllables and polysyllabic words like legislation, the alternately thin, trembling, hysterical, and whiny and pleading tone. This is what you hear before the substance of her speech. This woman appears to be medically sick and mentally unwell. This is a large part of the reason no one trusts her. The rest of the reason is bringing pimps, imps, and chimps into the parliament. So, I want all to know, it's not the prime minister who come out and say that. It's Raymond Ramcharita who call them pimps, imps, and chimps. And the prime minister is merely quoting him. You know why? Because it's a real good saying. Pimps, imps, and chimps. So, that is that bit. There is this other bit as well that I wanted you all to listen to. This is important. And when he talks about it, I am then going to throw all your mind back to something.
3 times. 1 year ago, in my capacity as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, I wrote to the Police Service Commission a letter under my hand with my signature. And the most important thing I could do as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is to attach my signature to any document. That letter was a letter indicating to the Commission that as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, I had lost confidence in the Commissioner of Police of Trinidad and Tobago. That's 1 year ago. Secondly, recently, after information came to me and a subunit of the National Security Council, the outcome of that was that carrying my duty, doing my duty, I had to submit the minutes of that meeting to the Police Service Commission. And thirdly, as I told you all publicly, the government sought and obtained legal advice as to whether the commissioner was properly appointed by the commission. And when I got that legal advice, it was of such import that I realized that it ought to be made available to the Police Service Commission so the commission would know that the government has accessed advice of that nature. Those are the 3 pieces of correspondence, not peeping behind any post, not meeting the chairman under anybody's house, written to the Police Service Commission. And if you want to go and check the laws of Commonwealth and see if any Prime Minister has any right or any authority to communicate with an independent commission like that. And when you find that out, you will know the quality of.
So, that is the Prime Minister on having lost confidence in Gary Griffith. So, I want to ask Ollie something. Where this image, boy? Ollie, remember this? Anybody remember this? Anybody remember this piece of bacchanal? Anybody remembers that the Cambridge Analytica investigation was closed by Gary Griffith, right? Gary Griffith closed the investigation into Cambridge Analytica. And the Prime Minister, after the announcement of the closure of that investigation, came and said, I presume that the authorities in the British Parliament and the US Congress are delirious, as the Trinidad mentioned in all of these proceedings is not a real place, but a location in a movie on Netflix, and all the subject of someone's imagination. This is my Cambridge Analytica comment on the closure, on the investigation closure in Trinidad, its birthplace, as it remains wide open and troubling in America. So I want all to understand something. The United States and Great Britain are still investigating the Cambridge Analytica issue. Those 2 countries still investigating the Cambridge Analytica issue. Gary Griffith, who at that point in time was the Commissioner of Police, right, closed the investigation. The interesting thing is the same Gary Griffith who was the Commissioner of Police when he closed that investigation was also the Minister of National Security in 2014 when, according to Noah Wiley, the person who worked on the Cambridge Analytica thing and also talked in the documentary and in the book about accessing our data, Griffith would have been the Minister of National Security at the point in time the Cambridge Analytica company was able to access our data. I talk about that here with all you. Right here, I sit down and I said they closed the investigation, and the interesting thing about the closure of that investigation is the same person who was Minister of National Security in 2014 is the same person who, as Commissioner of Police, closed the investigation. right? And in the book by Noah Wiley, they point out that they reached out to the Ministry of National Security and got access to our data, right? They didn't name a person, they just said officials in the Ministry of National Security. People who understand how getting information out of ministries here does work will understand that it does have to get permission from the top, right? So the Prime Minister would have made this statement, and look who jumped on the thread. Gary Griffith jumps on the thread to say they have to be delirious because up to now, the same US Congress and UK Parliament cannot provide one piece of evidence to show that this took place. I work on facts and evidence, not comments by persons in any parliament. That was the Commissioner of Police's response to the Prime Minister on based on the comments the Prime Minister made when the Cambridge Analytica case was closed. All you remember that? Because me don't forget them thing. Anybody here remember when the Prime Minister summoned Griffith to a meeting after, all you remember the fete in Bayshore in the height of COVID last year, right? Bayshore, Bayside, wherever it is, the towers, Bayside Towers had a big zest on the compound. And all of a sudden, the same Griffith who was locking up people left, right, and center for zesting in other parts of the country couldn't lock up anybody at Bayside for zesting because there was this issue about the difference between public and private and all them kind of nonsense. Right. That would have happened during the week. Then the Saturday, the Prime Minister would have been at a press conference. And at that Saturday press conference, he was asked a question about the uneven application of the public health regulations. The fact that low-income persons were getting locked up left, right, and center, and people from the West, from certain addresses in the West, would be breaching health regulations and they're not getting locked up at all. And the Prime Minister made a statement about the law having to be evenly applied. And then the Commissioner jumped out his whole self, had a whole out-of-body experience, and cuss up people left, right, and center, or used very strong and abusive language all over social media, to the point where Major Ralph Brown and a couple other persons from National Security had to write letters talking about Commissioner Griffith's behavior. And then the Prime Minister summoned the Commissioner of Police to a meeting. And that meeting, after that meeting, he would have written a letter, issued a letter to the Commissioner, to the Police Service Commission. And that letter is one of the letters that he would have submitted to the commission.
3 times. 1 year ago, in my capacity as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, I wrote to the Police Service Commission a letter under my hand with my signature. And the most important thing I could do as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is to attach my signature to any document. That letter was a letter indicating to the Commission that as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, I had lost confidence in the Commissioner of Police of Trinidad and Tobago.
And folks, that's where I will wrap it up. I trust that you all enjoyed the conversation this evening. I trust that you all understand just how weak the arguments being put forward by Kamla Persad-Bissessar are, and that the strongest argument she could possibly make about the president is that the president didn't do what she was supposed to do with the Constitution. I trust that you understand as well that the president's argument is going to be that she was advised to do nothing and then did nothing. I'm not in agreement with what the president did. I think as somebody whose responsibility it is to support, protect, uphold the Constitution, that this response, that paragraph 4 had you concerned but your advisors tell you don't do nothing, that, it's not working for me. It makes you sound lazy. It makes you sound as if you didn't do a thorough job at all. It makes it sound as if you need to get better advisors. So hopefully you'll get better advisors. I still think that you should have sent the list on to the Parliament. I also think that we still haven't yet gotten to the bottom of why the Police Service Commission decided to take on powers that did not belong to it and make Griffith the acting commissioner. I don't feel we've gotten the full story yet. And based on the press release that we saw today from the Office of the President, there are far more questions to be asked and answered. But I kind of tired talking about Constitution. I feel I want to spend a couple weeks talking about other things, other issues. You know, I want to have some lighter discussions with all you. In the meantime, have a good week. I won't see you all on Wednesday. I'll see you all on Friday. Friday, we're going to be talking about toxic workplaces and toxic co-workers. So, see me on Friday. See you on Friday. We're going to be having a really enlightening conversation. Take care.